How do you know they haven't messed with your head somehow?
Hello, welcome to Cynic Critique, where we get real with cult films. I'm your host Brian, and I'm here with my brother and co-host, my bro-host, Thomas. Hello. This week we explore Britain as we discuss two of our favourite British indies, 2004's Dead Man's Shoes and 2017's The Ghoul. Yeah, I'll kick us off with Dead Man's Shoes from 2004.
God will forgive them. He'll forgive them and allow them into heaven. I can't live with that.
Directed and co-written by Shane Meadows, co-written by Paddy Considine, and additional material by Paul Fraser. I have two varying budgets for this. One at £695,393, good to be working in pounds, and £723,000, and then grossing $230,591, and then the other one is £183,740. And then there's another one in dollars at $414,736. And starring Paddy Considine as Richard, Toby Kebbell, Anthony, Gary Stretch, Sonny, Stuart Wolfenden, Herbie, Neil Bell, Sars, and Paul Sado Tough. Synopsis from IMDb is a disaffected soldier returns to his hometown to get even with the thugs who brutalized his mentally challenged brother years ago. I don't know if you watched this when I first watched it, because I watched this on its Film 4 premiere. No, I didn't. I just fell in love with it then. It was something that I hadn't particularly seen before. Because it's as much as a slasher as it is a crime thriller. Yeah. Which is quite odd. I think this was also my introduction to Paddy Considine, and I've just loved him in everything I've seen him in this and since. Yeah. Upon watching this again, though, I didn't remember the brother being Toby Kebbell. No. Who I've seen in many things since, like Rock and Roller by Guy Ritchie, Fantastic Four, the remake, Fant4stic, as people call it, Black Mirror. I can't remember the name of the episode or which season, but it's the one with the eyes and he rewinds the memories. Yeah. And he's great in this as well. And apparently he was only signed on to shoot the film a week before filming began, I think it was. A day before filming began. And he shot all his scenes in a week, though. Yeah. It was the last week of filming. It took 3 weeks to film, so really he had like 2 weeks prep. Yeah, unless it meant a day before his scene started filming. Maybe. Also, did you see this? Paddy Considine and Toby Kebbell have something in common other than this film. No. They both play Rob Gretton, which was the manager for 80s band Joy Division. All right. Considine played him in 24-Hour Party People from 2002, which is a fantastic film, with Steve Coogan. And Toby Kebbell played the same character in a 2007 film called Control, right, which I haven't seen, and I can't remember the lead actor, but it's been on my list for a long time because I like the lead actor, and he's in Free Fire from Ben Wheatley. Nice, great one. Free Fire. Yeah. But I mentioned this being like a slasher, and it's because it's kind of a revenge thriller. Yeah, Paddy Considine's kind of he is your protagonist in this. Yeah, he's the one that's doing the slashing as he goes for the gang. Yeah, which the gang kind of reminded me of The Crow. Yeah, I know what you mean. Gary Stretch is Sonny and he's the leader. There's Herbie, but they're all like stoners and stuff. Here, the drug dealers. It was filmed in or near Matlock in Derbyshire because it's Ryber Castle that you can see, right, which was a zoo up until about the year 2000 and from 1960. Right. I love this film. I like how Richard, Considine's character, toys with them. Like, he breaks into their apartment after he gets them to go to the door and they all go out. So he's gone in and he spray paints Shane A. Stokes. Apparently that's the breathing pattern of people before they die. Yeah. The film was in memory of Martin Joseph Considine, which was Paddy Considine's dad. He died during the making of this film, I think. But he'd said that Paddy Considine should work with Shane Meadows again. Yeah. I think they have worked together. Yeah. This is a phenomenal film. No, I did see a few actors popping up in other things Shane Meadows had worked on. Yeah. He does reuse a lot of actors when you go through his catalogue. Yeah. People who don't know, Shane Meadows did This Is England, which branched off a few following up sequel TV shows for Channel 4, which was all called This Is England, but it would have the year they were set. It's supposed to be all great. Sadly, I've still not seen them. They've been on my list since they were released. I just love this film. The acting is phenomenal. It feels quite naturalistic at parts, and with the filmmaking style, the cinematographer is Danny Cohen, and there's a sort of like documentary style at times, especially when you're with the gang. It's like you're there with them, which I find quite fascinating.
That might be to do with the fact that it was pretty much a rough script, so a lot of the lines were mostly improvised.
Okay, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
But Danny Cohen, the cinematographer, people will probably know him now for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's worked on some award-winning films, such as The King's Speech, Les Miserables, Room, and TV shows such as Slow Horses.
Yeah.
And currently, or has lately worked on Shane Meadows' TV series, The Gallows Pole.
Right. There were just a few things I just thought you'd have mentioned from him.
Yeah.
King of Thieves.
Have I seen King of Thieves?
It's Charlie Cox.
Oh, was
Mike
right,
Caine.
yeah. Great film.
But I thought you'd have mentioned a couple of things that he did around 2004.
Yeah?
Because he did the strange TV series Nathan Barley. He was on that on every episode, I think.
Right, great show.
But then he did one of our favourite British horror films, Creep, in the same year as this.
Wow, Creep's a great film.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have done Creep for Halloween.
Yeah, I thought of that. Man. Oh, that's right.
That's a good pick.
Slide down.
Like I said, I've seen Paddy Considine and Toby Kebbell in other things.
Yeah.
The rest of the cast, not so much.
Gary Stretch is in quite a few B-movie action-looking things.
Right.
Like before this.
Yeah.
I think this was the film he did because he wanted to return to British films.
Yeah. Neil Bell seemed more familiar, who plays Soz, and I think I've seen him in some comedy stuff, but I forgot to look him up.
Same. When I watched this, I knew Toby Kebbell was. I definitely didn't watch this anywhere near when you watched this. This was one of them films that you were always talking about for
what seemed like forever at the time.
Yeah, you'd always mention it or say, hey, that's Paddy Considine from Dead Man's Shoes. Actually, you'd just say, that's him from Dead Man's Shoes.
Yeah. He's gone on to do loads of things. He did the adaptation of The Girl with All the Gifts. He's in that.
Yeah.
And phenomenal in that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's such a good actor. I could just do a whole episode on his films, I think.
Well, he wrote and directed a couple.
Yeah.
Stars in Journeyman being one and Tyrannosaur.
Not heard of Tyrannosaur.
No,
which reminds me, I just saw a trailer last night for a film called, I think it's actually called The Invisible T-Rex.
Right.
Or The Invisible Velociraptor or something.
Right.
It's basically a film about an invisible dinosaur. Not relevant, but you reminded me that I saw that trailer and I'd forgotten. I didn't think it looked particularly great.
Oh, okay.
It looked funny, but not great. But I expected more from it.
All right.
But no, Constantine's character Richard in this, he's back from Afghanistan, I'm assuming, or Iraq.
Yeah.
Due to the year of the film. Never mentioned it actually, but Flight Plan was quite post-9, and Red Eye post 9/11 as well.
Yeah.
The terrorism plots in them are clearly to do with the Iraq, and so is this, because he's clearly suffering PTSD, I would say, and going through a whole thing, and it appears that he's maybe homeless, because he's living in an abandoned farmhouse building.
Well, he said, as soon as we put it on, this opening is very reminiscent of Rambo.
Yeah,
How it's just
him walking down the street with his military bag.
Yeah.
Well, it looked like a military issue backpack he's got with it anyway, in the khaki green. And yeah,
very reminiscent of that.
Yeah, it was. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's I mean, that film was 2004, set in a post-war thing. It would be very easy for Rambo to be an inspiration. And I think many filmmakers from that era, like Shane Meadows, would have Rambo noted on their thing. Even filmmakers now would have Rambo in their subconscious somewhere, because it's such a big film that most people have seen it now. Yeah. But I mean, Dead Man's Shoes is one of the biggest British independent films. When I was at school, there was like nobody that hadn't seen this. And when I've like gone to college or jobs, everyone I've met when we started talking films, they've all seen Dead Man's Shoes and love it. Like, it's such an impact on people. I think the ending is really what sells this for people. I mean, the end's a masterclass. The film just doesn't go places where you would expect. And I think that's a lot down to not just the performances, but the screenwriting, or at least the plot outline.
Yeah, the plot took a different turn from what originally was Considine's idea. It was going to be like a black comedy.
Okay.
It was based on a story he saw about a social worker.
Right.
That kind of took matters into their own hands. Meadows took it down a darker path. Yeah, he had a friend who had disabilities when he was younger, and that friend died. So they kind of adapted it from these two stories they knew and created what was originally called The Skull, which turned into this.
Right, that doesn't surprise me. And I think we forgot to mention Toby Kebbell's character Anthony is supposed to have some sort of learning difficulties.
Yeah.
It's never explained what's wrong, but it's made quite obvious throughout the film with how the gang seem to take advantage of him in the flashback scenes and so on.
That's another thing as well. Kebbell was probably last-minute casting because the person that was originally in the part didn't really know how to play the disability.
Right. It's a touchy topic anyway.
Yeah.
And then you've got to play it when you're in a serious drama like this is. You've got to play it with some sort of sensibilities that it comes across as earnest and real.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was a find from drama group in Nottingham, I think it was.
Yeah.
Nearby, yeah, they found him.
Uh-huh.
And he got a role in a Woody Allen film the year after this, just from his performance in this. No audition necessary.
Wow.
And this helped land him another like Hollywood film. I can't remember what now.
Yeah.
It's just surprising how far his career went.
Yeah, he's like the biggest one in this now, isn't he, really?
I'd say Paddy Considine's probably the biggest one. He doesn't seem to do Hollywood like Cabell does, so I wonder if he's got Sean Bean problem and he's scared of flying.
Yeah.
I've only seen it not even a handful of times because I just remember it so well. I just love it. I even like the look that Considine takes on as he takes on his like vigilante justice, if you want to call it that, or if you want to call it his vengeance.
Yeah.
Because he just dons like a khaki boiler suit and a gas mask. But this is where it's weird because the gas mask is apparently a Cold War era Russian gas mask, a GP5,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have the air filters in either.
No.
But I just found that quite odd that it's that gas mask and maybe not a more recent one.
Yeah.
If it's supposed to be from his time in the services, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not.
No. I'm guessing it's just something he picked up. I don't know. Maybe just being a soldier, he'd come across it somewhere.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, the film itself is quite basic in plot.
Yeah.
The picture quality is not particularly great. It feels like it's very handheld, especially in the parts where I think it possibly is handheld with the flashbacks.
Yeah.
It feels very home video, family film sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There's even parts where it's in black and white for the flashbacks.
Yeah.
I like how they managed to make it obvious when it's flashback and how far back and so on.
Yeah.
And it feels quite a personal film. The story itself feels quite personal.
Yeah.
But the fact that Paddy Considine co-wrote this essentially then and starred in it, and then it's in memory of his father. He's also got his nephews starring in it.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal performances on Considine and Cabell.
Yeah.
I don't know if the film would hold up if it wasn't for their performances. The gang are just passable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But they're very stereotypical, like, very of their time henchmen-y, I guess. Like I said, they kind of remind me of the characters in The Crow that Top Dollar has.
Yeah.
Just for the fact there's like a little small team of 4 or 5. There's clearly a leader who's more charismatic than the rest, but you don't really understand why he's the leader. He's not particularly doing anything special that they're not.
I am surprised it's not as well. It weren't for me anyway. Not many people talk about it that I knew. Anyway.
Yeah.
When I was looking it up, there was a lot of awards it won.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they all were now exactly, but I think Considine had one for leading actor.
Yeah. Well, Shane Meadows had to put This Is England on hold because of the success this film had from its release. I mean, This Is England was only 2 years later,
Yeah.
but it felt like a long time because I'd seen this in good time before This Is England ever came out.
Yeah. Anjan Sakar. He's the guy who did the storyboards for this.
Okay.
He's the person who adapted it into comic books.
I was going to say there is a very underground comic for this. Like,
Yeah.
it's quite hard to find rare because I'm in a few comics selling pages and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd love to get my hands on it. And the last time I saw it, I can't remember how much it was, but I couldn't afford it at the time, sadly.
Yeah.
The soundtrack did very well. And I don't know if when it says the soundtrack did well, I don't know if they mean the score or the soundtracks. There are some songs in this that are quite nice.
Yeah.
But it's a big cult film, especially where we are in England.
Yeah.
Because this is a big film amongst a lot of British cinephiles.
Yeah.
And I guess that's because of how well made it is, but also the culture it's tackling and the simple premise.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's an easy watch. Some people might say it's a bit dark.
Or cheap looking.
Yeah. I don't ever remember it looking cheap looking when I first watched it, but I guess that's to do with how camera quality's improved now as well.
Yeah.
And British films are never big budget anyway.
Nah. So an indie British movie is very, very low budget looking.
In a way, I think the low budget look of this helps to the griminess and murkiness of it, kind of similar to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
You know, it's got that really... Because it's not as gory as you would think.
No. I was just about to say, I remember thinking like it was quite a violent film, but on a rewatch, I was like, it's not really violent.
A lot of it happens kind of off screen.
Yeah.
I think the most violent part involves Seamus O'Neill, Big Al, when they go to confront Richard at his house. I don't want to spoil that for anyone that's not seen it. And if you've not seen it, it's a must-watch. It's a British classic now, pretty much, and it's a big cult film as well.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what American audiences make of this, so I might see if I can get some Americans to watch it somehow.
Just look on reviews online. I'll bet there'll be some.
Yeah, probably. That's not a bad idea, actually. Check out my letterbox and see what the Americans are saying.
Because I saw some bad reviews for this one.
Yeah,
on
and it's all because they're cheap.
Yeah, and it's like, but they're good films.
The cheapness of it, I don't think, takes away from the movie making.
No. If they were poorly acted, I'd be like, well, yeah, I can understand why. But these are really well made.
Yeah. And I guess that allows us to go on to the Ghoul now. No? Yep. Or is there more you want to say for this? Because I don't feel there's as much to say for this in terms of plot.
Nah, it's very basic.
Yeah. Once you say it's a revenge thriller slasher kind of thing,
Yeah, you know it goes.
yeah, it's more the character stuff that make it.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to move on to 2017's The Ghoul.
Can you tell me what you'd like to get out of these sessions?
Sometimes I daydream that I'm undercover in real life. I pretend I'm part of an investigation, you know.
Directed by Gareth Tunley, written by Gareth Tunley, starring Tom Meaton as Chris, Alice Lowe as Kathleen, Rufus Jones as Coulson, Niamh Cusack as Fisher, or Helen Fisher, should I say, Jeffrey McGivern as Morland, Paul Kay as Tommy Parnell, and Dan Skinner as Jim. But grossed $18,460. Sadly, due to the internet, all gross and mostly in dollars, the budget would have probably been in pounds. I couldn't find the budget anywhere in pounds, but I'm pretty sure at the Q&A we went to when we attended this at the Hull Independent Film Festival, that they said it was just thousands, because the director, Gareth Tunley, did a Q&A, and I'm sure he said it was just thousands, and they did editing in his garage and stuff like that on a computer, and that's why the effects aren't particularly special as well when you get some, because it's just what the cheap video software he had could achieve. The synopsis, as IMDb has it, is a homicide detective goes undercover as a patient to investigate a psychotherapist he believes is linked to a strange double murder. As his therapy sessions continue, the line between fantasy and reality begin to blur. So what do you think of this? Because you saw this when I did at the cinema.
Yeah. This became like an instant favourite. I think you were saying like, watch this, and it's oh yeah, this is great.
I was itching to watch it again.
Yeah, and I think it was only on the rewatch when I think you also compared it to Donnie Darko.
Yeah, this time round, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember thinking that when I first watched it.
By that, I just mean it's how it blurs that line, not just of what's real and happening. There's like a time element involved that becomes a big part of the plot that halfway in.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it because it really works. If you know what a Mobius strip is, you'll probably figure it out straight away. Maybe not. But yeah, kind of Donnie Darko, in how there's this sci-fi time element wrapped around this person's psychosis.
Yeah. Tom Meaton, I think, puts in one hell of a performance.
It's a great performance.
He anchors this movie down really well.
Yeah. He's normally in comedy stuff.
Yeah.
He was recently in a TV series, though, a thriller, a 4-part thing called Intruder, from Gareth Tunley as writer and director.
Yeah. That's the same guy, Wayne Shepherd, who does the music on this as well.
Right, okay.
They pretty much work together on like nearly everything.
Yeah.
I feel.
Cinematographer Benjamin Pritchard didn't seem to have done much so, and I think that might have been how I found that TV series, actually. I've not written it.
Yeah, he might have worked on that as well. I forgot to look him up.
But I've seen the Ghoul say that it's in things saying that it's a micro budget.
Yeah.
But that's just from a couple of reviews I found. One review was quite nice about this. I can't remember what paper that worked for. I want to say it was The Independent. But they said it was a great crime thriller with these sci-fi elements. Don't expect a horror like the title of The Ghoul may suggest.
Yeah.
And likened it nicely, I thought, to David Lynch, specifically Lost Highway.
Yeah.
Which I can see them Lynch elements in the ideas around this.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, I would say it's more Donnie Darko than David Lynch.
Yeah.
But I can see where they mean with the David Lynch thing of Lost Highway.
Yeah.
Some people say the plot is pointless and the film doesn't go anywhere. Some people say it's a great premise, but it's too much of a slow burn. But I think those people are not paying enough attention to what's happening.
Yeah.
Because it's not long into this film and them lines get blurred. Because he goes to this psychotherapist and we know he's undercover, or we assume we know he's undercover because he'd been to see his friend Kathleen, who's apparently a profiler, and said what type of depression he should state he has and how he would answer, and then he goes and gives them sort of answers, and then it's maybe like his second or third session and he's now this unemployed person that has daydreams he's an undercover cop and follows people for the enjoyment of it to prove he's working a case, and it's like, wow, this has been flipped pretty quick. Then one of the people he follows is Coulson. He's a patient. And he's like, be careful what you say to them because they'll flip your reality on you kind of thing. Basically saying that you'll be... And then it starts going a little bit into like witchcraft with these runes or something. There's a... Yeah, like it takes you all over the place when you're paying attention to the minor details that are being said.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely about the information being said than it is of what you're seeing. But you need that information to put together with what you're seeing to really figure out what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
It's just a phenomenal premise done so well for the budget it's done on.
Yeah. One hell of a ride.
Yeah.
Like, what, 80-odd minutes as well?
Yeah, 85 something minutes, I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so glad I found the Blu-ray the other day to pick up.
Yeah. Picked that up, watched it, and then we're recorded now.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much in 48 hours. Yeah, it's 85 minutes according to IMDb. I would like to explain why it's called The Ghoul for anyone that thinks there might be some horror elements just from that title, because I mentioned there's kind of some witchcrafty sort of runes.
Yeah.
But the ghoul comes from the therapist saying he should name his depression to help conquer it.
Yeah.
So he calls it a ghoul, which if you pay attention a criminal, I think it is, or a murderer early on in the film. They're referred to as being like a ghoul.
Yeah.
So he's clearly took the name from there.
Yeah.
And that's a detail that I think is worth paying attention to throughout the film. But I mentioned Tom Meaton's done a lot of comedy stuff for BBC, I think, mostly. Or that's why I've seen him in some BBC comedy stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the same for many of this cast that crop up. I can't remember where, but Naima Cusack, that plays Helen Fisher, the first therapist he sees, she's from a lot of comedy stuff. I want to say something like the Mitchell and Webb look or something. I'm not sure, but she would crop up as a comedy character in places, as would many of this cast.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that Tom Meaton's managed to keep a straight man role, I guess, from this film.
Yeah.
Because the other therapist he sees, Jeffrey McGivern's character, Morland, I'm pretty sure I recognise him from some comedy or other. Paul Kaye is maybe the most recognisable in this.
Yeah.
He's a big British actor that's done a lot. I was supposed to write down what he's done, because I think he was even in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he was.
And he's only got a small part in this.
Yeah.
He was in Pennyworth, apparently.
Yeah.
He was in The Dark Pictures, The Devil in Me.
Right.
He's one of the characters in that. Great video game series, them Dark Pictures.
Yeah.
The Devil in Me, I think, was the last one they put out. And now we've been waiting ages, it seems, for the space one.
Yeah.
I bet it's out and just not been advertised, actually. He was in the first season of Good Omens for an episode.
Alright.
He'll crop up in a lot of British TV stuff. He was in 10 episodes of Game of Thrones from 2013 to 2017. He was Thoros of Myr. I don't know who that character was. You watched it. I know. I find The Ghoul a fascinating film, and I could watch it again and again, I think, and not get bored of it.
Yeah.
It's one of those films where you feel you might be missing some extra information that help tie off the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel the end makes sense to me, but I just feel there's information there that give you a conclusion if you're paying enough attention.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm missing it. But this was only my second time watching it. I think you managed to catch it on film 4.
Yeah, not long after I'd actually seen it in cinema as well.
I think I sent you a thing today, because it was apparently... Yeah, today apparently is the 7 years ago since it premiered on film 4.
Yeah.
Today is of recording anyway.
Yeah.
Which I thought was quite coincidental.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tom Meaton really helps pull this too, I think, with his performance. If it weren't for him, this film would, well, not just him, but if it weren't for somebody that is giving a great performance in the role of Chris, this film would fall.
Yeah.
And fail. Like, it just wouldn't hold up. Because you need somebody that you're interested in seeing on screen, and he does that beautifully in this, I think.
I did say he was the anchor.
Yeah, you did, actually. Yeah, sorry. Just reiterating you. But it's true. He really does.
Yeah.
Just because I am a big fan of this one, I will say I believe you can watch it for free on Tubi if you've got Tubi. It's a free streaming app for films and TV. I checked them out, actually, and they do have some pretty good stuff on there, and I can't remember what now.
Yeah, I remember reading out a few things.
But I know if you have Arrow Video as one of your channels on Amazon Prime, you'll be able to stream it off there as well.
Nice.
Because my Blu-ray was an Arrow Video Blu-ray. But yeah, The Ghoul, I mean, on IMDb, it sits with a rating of 5.6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Which I think is a lot lower than it should be. But when I've scrolled through some of those reviews, it's people just saying it's cheap or it's not a horror film.
Yeah.
Seems to be the main query with this film. Which, no, it's not a horror film. It's just got a title of a horror film. I guess it doesn't help when Boris Karloff did a film of the same name in 1933.
Yeah, do you think some people like this is a terrible remake?
Maybe. I don't know if I said, but it is produced by Ben Wheatley. Ben Wheatley is a big British director. He does another one of my favourite British films, Kill List, Free Fire, High Rise.
Yeah.
Most people, I'm guessing, that aren't from the UK would know him for the Meg 2.
Yeah.
It's only just now looking at the poster for The Ghoul on IMDb that I'm getting some Bill Bixby Incredible Hulk TV series vibes.
Oh, yeah.
I think people would believe Tom Meaton's playing Bruce Banner when you look at him. He's a lanky guy and he's really skinny, and he does actually have a bit of a Bill Bixby look to him. You know what I mean? Kind of like rugged and homeless.
It is a good point, actually. Both films are protagonist is kind of homeless.
I mean, he's not so much homeless in this. He's just living in like this tiny, tiny box room sized apartment.
Yeah.
But you're not sure if that's part of his undercover or... Again, it's plays so well.
Yeah.
Because like there's a version where his friend Jim is a cop on the force.
Yeah.
And then there's the idea that he works for a bar
Yeah.
or something and brings drinks to every so often. And I just love the fact that world is blurred for the audience as well as our character, Chris.
Yeah.
And that's something that holds this up for me. I can understand this film isn't for everyone, but I think the people that don't like it shouldn't be saying it's a bad film. But I think when you look at the reviews, you can tell if this film's going to be from you or not, just from what people are saying.
Yeah.
You know, because like a lot of the bad reviews aren't particularly negative on the film. They say it's cheap, which isn't so much a thing on the film. So what, you can tell it looks cheap, but it's not taking anything away from the film, making the performances or the phenomenal story that's playing out.
No.
And some are just like, it's not a horror film. And it's like, I know. If you'd have thought to have read about it before you watched it, you would have known it's not a horror film.
Yeah.
So maybe they were just hoping it was a horror film.
Well, some people don't really read what they're about or put them on or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know.
I don't remember a lot of what was said from the Q&A about this.
No.
Other than the fact that he was editing it on some cheap video editing software he had on his laptop and was doing it at home in a garage for some of it and stuff.
Yeah, and the fact that filming took 10 days. It was like 7 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even the actors were not particularly paid much, if I'm right. Tom Meaton's in it, but I know he's a producer on it as well.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they weren't getting paid much. They were just doing it for the love of the film.
Yeah.
And it was about who they could get their hands on. And because they were from the background of comedy, that's why a lot of the stars are from comedy.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're not from the UK or not familiar with the UK comedy shows, then some of these faces wouldn't be recognisable to you, which would probably add to the cheapness of it. But I guess it would make the story a little more believable, not knowing who they are when you go in. Because, like, now you can go watch a Brad Pitt movie and you know it's Brad Pitt. Do you know what I mean? It spoils the idea of a character being there.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes gets lost on people and they're like, so-and-so's a bad actor. And it's more for the fact they've just seen this person before more than it is the fact that it's a bad performance.
Now I'm just imagining Brad Pitt in a movie like this, or Brad Pitt in this.
You could do a film like this. But this is a phenomenal film that I think deserves more eyes on it, that's for sure.
Like I say, I was searching it and I couldn't really find anything on it.
There's not even that many reviews on it.
Like when I searched it, it was just a few reviews and then
Yeah.
I'd just get to the end of the Google list.
I thought it was like an instant cult classic, and it probably is. It's just the fact that cult is very small. Whereas Dead Man's Shoes was an instant cult classic from release, and that cult's quite big, almost nationwide.
Yeah.
I would probably say 1 in 3 people have seen Dead Man's Shoes, where it's probably like 1 in 50 have seen The Ghoul, if that.
Maybe.
But anyone interested in British cinema, I think these 2 films are worth checking out for sure. And the 2 films we'll be discussing next week as well, which will be first watches for you next week, I believe.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Sure will. I've only seen one of them once. You'll have to listen and find out next week. Is there any more you want to say about The Ghoul, or are we just going to be repeating ourselves?
I think we'll end up repeating ourselves. It's okay. Not much to say about it or anything, but it's spoiler territory otherwise, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, go for it. Wrap us up.
So that's the end of the show. Thank you for joining us this week. And if you haven't already, click like and subscribe. A glowing review would also be appreciated. We are cynic_critique on X and Instagram. Links to those and more can be found in the show's description. Remember to join us again next week as we dig further into the underbelly of Britain to discuss Sexy Beast and Gangster Number 1. Thank you. Goodbye.
Do the job. No, Don. Yes. No. Yes. No. Yes. I can't. You can. I can't. Don't do this. Do what? What am I doing? This. This what?